Disappearance day of Sanatana Goswami.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you. So today is the disappearance day of Srila Sanatana Goswami. And we have heard about him so many times, so many pastimes. But I think I may have something that is not as heard, as commonly heard as this. I'm basing all of this on readings from the biographies. There are 3 biographies in the Gaudiya history, each on this heart tree, that are very extensive about Srila Sanatana Goswami. One of them is like long, the other one is like rather long, and the other one is extremely long. So I read all 3 and decided to use the very long one and some excerpts. So Srila Sanatana Goswami is the oldest one of the 6 Goswamis. And Rupa Goswami is 6 years younger. Okay. So we're going to sing the song, Janilo Premadana. Janilo Premadana, Karuna Prachu. No prahu kota hena chaya taku. Kamora sarupa, kahasanata. Sarada patita Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Paramahamsa Parivachakacharya Sata. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Anta Kapti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shriva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Sundara Radakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Nugaloka Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Brihan Mridanga Ki Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Book Distribution Ki Jai Prasad Distribution Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Again, today is the disappearance day of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who was born Sanatana Das Goswami. What do you say? No. Sanatana Das Goswami, who appeared in the year 1488 Christian era. So we're going to be hearing some pastimes and some information about his activities. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srila Sanatana Goswami was previously very dear to Rupa Manjari and was also known by some wise persons as Lavanga Manjari, thus her personality in the pastimes of Vrindavan with Lord Sri Krishna. He has become the worshipper of Sanatan, who is not different from Gaura himself. The jewel among sages, Sanatan Kumar, has also entered into him to fulfill a certain mission, and this is from the Ganadesh Tipika, verse 181. And this is a text also from the Ganadesh Tipika. Sanatan's life before meeting Mahaprabhu. Sanatan's father would perform different rituals even after seeing a Muslim, yet Sanatan himself would associate constantly with Muslims being dependent on them for his livelihood, he would even go to their homes. For this reason, he considered himself to be on the same level as the Muslims and behaved very humbly. Sometimes, when he had fallen into the ocean of humility, he would think of himself as even lower than a militia, because he had associated with Muslims and behaved in a lowly manner like them. He would speak of himself in that way. Though born in the highest class family of Brahmins, he never thought of himself as a Brahmin, and this is a quote from the Bhakti Ratnakara. All the participants in Krishna's Leela also made their appearance in Gaura's incarnation in order to enrich his pastimes. Through them, the Lord gives various teachings to the people of this world. Through Haridas, he revealed the glories of the holy name. Through Sanatana, the articles of faith in devotional service. Through Rupa, he taught Radha and Krishna's pastimes of love. Who can understand the mysterious workings of the Lord? And this is a quote from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, chapter 5, verses 86 and 87. And it's interesting to note that the conversation, the Ramananda Samvad, is one chapter, is Antya Lila, chapter 8. And the Rupa Goswami instructions by Lord Chaitanya is also one chapter, chapter 19 in Madhya Lila. In Madhya Lila, chapters 20, 21, 22, and 23 are instructions from Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami is the one who is going to establish all the tenets of the process of devotion, the actual doctrine from beginning to end. So he had a very, very serious commitment that he performed very beautifully. Through Sanatana's mercy, I learned the points of devotional doctrine, while through Rupa's mercy, I learned about the divine devotional sentiments. This is a quote from the Adi Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 5. Sanatana has been called the Bhakti Siddhanta Acharya, the teacher of devotional doctrine, by which is meant the teacher of Sambandha Gyan. We know that there are three processes or three steps: Sambandha Gyan, Avideya, and Prayojan. Sambandha Gyan is establishing the connection of the living entity with the Supreme Lord and with the world. The Avideya is the process by which we can undertake the travel or the trip to get to the highest process, which is attainment of pure love of God, which is the ultimate goal of our existence. The first meeting of Sanatana Goswami with Mahaprabhu in Ramakeli. After Mahaprabhu took sannyas, he first went to Shantipur and then on to Puri, and then on pilgrimage to South India. After completing his pilgrimage and returning to Puri, Mahaprabhu decided to go to Vrindavan via the route which follows the Ganges through Bengal. Great crowds of people accompanied him, and he eventually decided to turn back from Kanai Nashtala. He met Rupa and Sanatana for the first time while passing through the village of Ramakeli. On this voyage, we know that the association of the Rupa and Sanatana and the Goswamis with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very intense, very deep, and very substantial. And this is the first time they were going to meet. Ramakeli is in a district in West Bengal. It is also known, that's interesting, because Ramakeli is also known as Gupta Vrindavan, which means hidden Vrindavan. And this is in Bengal. Talk about Lord Chaitanya wanting to go to Vrindavan, but then turning around and not going there yet. There are a number of sites in Ramakeli which are worth seeing as reminders of Rupa and Sanatana. There is a Tamal and Kadamba tree under which Mahaprabhu is said to have been sitting when he met Rupa and Sanatana. A shrine containing the footprints of the Lord has been constructed there as a memorial of that meeting. The Lord distributed love of Krishna to all the devotees in this location. Something that is similar in Vrindavan, Skupta Vrindavan, is hidden Vrindavan in Ramakeli. All these things that are in common with Vrindavan. The temple of Madan Mohan also. This Madan Mohan deity was personally worshipped by Sanatana Goswami. There are also deities of Nitai, Gauranga, and Advaita Prabhus. There are several tanks, ponds, which are named Radha Kund, Shama Kund, Surabhi Kund, Lalita Kund, and Vishaka Kund. So it emulates Vrindavan. A large man-made lake named Rupa Sagara, which is said to have been excavated by Rupa Goswami, and another named Sanatana Sagara. Sagara, of course, means ocean, right? Rupa and Sanatana had large mansions built both in Ramakeli and Fatehabad because they were very wealthy personalities. He talked, when the Muslim king heard that Sanatana Goswami was coming through that area, he was very afraid that he was going to incite the Muslims into some sort of action. But there was a personality, his name was Keshava Khatri, who explained to the king that there was no reason, Muslim king, to fear Mahaprabhu. And Rupa Goswami, the Birkas at that point, also glorified Mahaprabhu to the king, telling him of his great fortune in having the Lord bless the country by his presence. And the king said, "Listen, I'm also beginning to think that this person must be God himself. There's no doubt about it." After having this conversation, the king entered his private quarters, and the Birkas, who is Rupa Goswami, also returned to his residence. After returning there, however, he and his brother Sanatana decided that after much consideration to go incognito to see the Lord. Thus, in the dead of night, the two brothers, the Birkas, Rupa Goswami, and Sakara Malik, Sanatana Goswami, went to see Mahaprabhu. First, they met Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur. Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas then went and told the Lord that Rupa and Sakara Malik had come to see him. And this is for the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, is Madhya Lila chapter 1. When Rupa and Sanatana met the Lord, they spoke to him with extreme humility. They had these doubts about the behavior of the king and actual intentions of the king. We too are millions of times more degraded, that's they were saying this to Lord Chaitanya, fallen and sinful than Jagai and Madai. We are of wicked birth because we are the servants of Muslims, and our activities are exactly like those of the Muslims. We constantly associate with people who are inimical to the cows and the Brahmins. Due to our abominable activities, we are now bound by the neck and hands and have been thrown into the ditch filled with the excrement of evil sense enjoyment. Again, this is also from Madhya Lila chapter 1 of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is very distressful to us that we're so unworthy, yet when we see your merciful qualities, we become desirous of attaining your blessings. This powerful desire rises up in us as that of a dwarf who wants to touch the moon. Another quote from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When the Lord heard the extreme humility of the two brothers, he became compassionate and said to them, "You are my eternal servitors. You are my eternal servants. From now on, you shall be known as Rupa and Sanatana." So here, Lord Chaitanya has given them their names. "I came to Bengal just so that I could meet you here in Ramakeli. Krishna will deliver you from your entanglements very shortly." And we know what happens, how eventually they became free from the entanglements with the Muslim government, with their positions in the Muslim government. Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to Rupa and Sanatan, by giving them these names, Rupa and Sanatan, respectively. We know how Sanatan escaped from prison, and how his servant had kept one of the gold coins, and that had exposed Sanatana Goswami to be killed. Somehow or other, he managed, through his brilliant intelligence, to be safe and be able to leave and escape. Sanatana then continued on to Benares, where he was overjoyed to learn that Mahaprabhu was staying at the house of the physician Chandrasekhara. Sanatana did not go straight into Chandrasekhara's house, but waited on his front porch. The Lord, the indweller of all souls, knew of his devotee's arrival and sent Chandrasekhara to the door to invite him in. As soon as Sanatana entered, Mahaprabhu immediately rushed to embrace him. The meeting of the Lord with his devotee affected them both so intensely that they were overcome by the transformations of ecstatic love. In his affection for Sanatana, the Lord started to brush off the dust accumulated on his body from his travels, but this caused Sanatana to feel uncomfortable. He told the Lord not to touch him, but the Lord answered, "I touch you in order to purify myself. Your devotional force is so great that you can purify the entire universe. I look at you, I touch you, and I sing your glories. By so doing, all my senses attain their most perfect use." So imagine the Supreme Lord saying that about a living entity. Sanatana Goswami, of course, super exalted personality, Lavanga Manjari, in the pastimes of Krishna and Vrindavan. While Mahaprabhu was in Benares, he stayed with Chandrasekhara and took his meals at the house of Tapana Mishra. Mahaprabhu introduced Sanatana to these two devotees, very important devotees. And Tapana Mishra invited Sanatana to come to his house and take Mahaprabhu's prasad remnants. Mahaprabhu was extremely pleased to see Sanatana's renunciation, because we know the story about the blanket that had been given to him by his brother-in-law, and that eventually he exchanged that very rich and fine blanket for somebody's rag blanket. And here he said, renunciation is the predominating characteristic of every one of Mahaprabhu's devotees. When Lord Gauranga sees their renunciation, he is very pleased. So he was showing further and further symptoms of being renounced or renouncing. The Lord's teachings to Sanatana. So eventually they got together, and the Lord is going to teach to Sanatana this Chaitanya Charitamrita, starting Madhya Lila chapter 20. Like I said, 4 chapters that are all teachings to Lord. To Sanatana Goswami, because Sanatana is establishing the doctrine of devotional service from beginning to end. Being pleased with Sanatana, Mahaprabhu infused him with spiritual power, giving him the capacity to ask appropriate questions about the practice of true spiritual life. Without the mercy of the Supreme Lord, genuine, honest questions on such matters cannot arise in someone's mind. In other words, unless the Lord blesses us, we cannot ask the appropriate questions. These are all teachings for us. Most people ask questions thinking that they already know the right answer, but simply as a sort of debating technique. That's not recommended. No spiritual benefit arises from such types of questions. Honest questions meant to find out doctrinal truths, leading to surrender, are called pariprashna, which is relevant inquiry. And we know tadvidi pratipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadakshanti te jnanam jnaninas tadvadarshina. I'm going to read the sentence again. No spiritual answer has, in other words, the question has to be presented with honesty, without any duplicity. Not that I know what he's going to say, or I already know the answer, so why should but actually I don't know, and I really want to know, and I'm approaching a person of high character and of advanced devotee to ask this question from. No spiritual benefit arises from questioning with duplicity. Honest questions meant to find out doctrinal truths leading to surrender. Leading to surrender. The person wants to be enlightened in order to proceed down the path of devotional service and with further and further surrender to the tenets of the philosophy. Bhagavad Gita, the books that we read, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and actual practice. Does anybody have any comments to say before I continue? Or any questions? No? Okay. Sanatana's first question to Lord Chaitanya was, "Nani ke?" That means, who am I? This is the first question which arises in the heart of a person seeking the highest good. If one makes a mistake in assessing his true identity, then he will make errors when it comes to determining the ultimate goal of life. If we don't understand who we are, how can we actually reach for the goal of life, at least theoretically, if we don't even have the theoretical understanding of who we really are? How can we actually proceed on the path of that leads us to the goal of life? All of one's duties, religious observations, and self-interest rest upon the proper knowledge of oneself. It is our best self-interest to actually be honest and to seek the truth, to understand the truth, and then apply what we're learning. If one takes the body to be the self, then he considers the maintenance of the body itself to be the goal of life, or prayojan tattva, which is prayojan tattva means the truth of the goal.